Donald Trump yesterday signed a crazy amount of executive orders, so many to the point to where you probably have no idea what was even signed. And if you actually jump on whitehouse.gov, you'll only see, I think, about 50 to 60 of them listed on there because some of these are sub of subs. And so I figured I would go through all of these, type them up, and just kind of give you the bullet points of some of these. And yes, I will say, it does get a little confusing because some of these are like, wait, what? What's going on here? So I broke them down pretty much into different sections, and then some of them do kind of loop in together. So I figured, let's break this down in one video. Here we go. And if you have any questions of any of these individually, we actually broke down at least, I think, like 4 or 5 of these on our TikTok channel at Joey Contino News. So let's start off with the federal government, at least the workforce. There is going to be a federal hiring freeze, except for military and essential roles. Essentially, they want to go through and reevaluate every single department to see how much money they're spending and if those rules are really critical or not. Next, they're restoring Schedule F for federal employees, reducing job protections. That is something that we're probably going to see in other companies as well. They're halting new federal rules until reviewed by the Donald Trump appointees, aka we want to make sure that all these rules coming in actually make sense and they're not just extra loopholes or essentially just red tape you got to cut through. They're going to review and correct the Biden administration actions on law enforcement and intelligence. There's a few things that go along with this. Remember that Donald Trump came into office and pretty much took away all the executive orders that Biden put into office. He's going to grant the White House staff top clearances without the traditional vetting, something which could be a problem, but some of those vettings, it really does have to deal with just making sure they're good enough to be inside the office. It does open up a lot of things to you just kind of allow people in who shouldn't be in the office. But then again, Trump's the president. He can kind of do what he wants in that kind of aspect, letting anyone in or work for him without really needing that vetting. Then it says, is the end remote for federal employees? So since the pandemic, now it's been a while, but since then, companies around the world have been still having some of these work at home aspects. Even right now, a lot of major companies that still have like a 3 or 4 day where you have to be in the office and 1 day you can work from home. Well, under Trump, they want to get rid of that. They want you to be full-time in the office no matter what. Me personally, I believe that's kind of like an old mindset. Because if I, for example, needed to go into New York every day, that's an hour each way plus, $30 for tolls one way. That adds up a lot. So to me, I don't really see that really working out. And actually, you make it worse for certain people. And I say this because, I don't work for the government. But usually when the government starts changing their rules and laws for workforce, it's usually going to come back to whether it be private companies or any kind of government institutions. That's just federal. I'm talking about also when it comes to state. So now we're going to dive into immigration and then the border. A lot is happening at the border since he did declare a national emergency down there. The reason why he is doing this is because it now opens up a lot more money to do different things at the border. So what's happening at the border? Well, it bars asylum for new arrivals at the southern border, which, if you are going through something absolutely horrible, you get to the border, you're not allowed in. Next is a move to end birthright citizenship for children and undocumented immigrants. This is going to be a hard one for Trump because that is the 14th Amendment, aka you come here and if you're born here, you got citizenship. And the only real way for Donald Trump to turn that one around is if he's got to get both the Senate and the House, 2/3 to agree on it and a couple other things, but that's also going to be fought. It's going to get to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court has upheld this entire 14th Amendment. And so if the Supreme Court were to look at this and agree with Donald Trump, they would actually have to overturn a lot of different convictions they've made or opinions they've made in the past 100 and something odd years. Yeah, it goes back really far. It's very unlikely he's going to get this one. Remember that executive orders are more or less kind of like wish lists versus it actually becoming law instantly. Some of these things actually have to go through the right channels in order for it to get done. And I'll be honest with you, things that need a 2/3 majority, it's probably not going to get passed. That's kind of easy off the bat, which is why I'm saying this one here is extremely unlikely. Next is suspend the refugee admissions program. This suspension essentially is a 90-day pause so they can review the current programs and see whether or not these people who are coming in are qualified to come through. Now, realistically speaking, does that mean in 90 days these programs are going to just come right back? We don't know. It's one of those things where we know that those heads are going to have to put reports together and submit them, and then from there, they'll make a decision. It's a weird thing to kind of pause. It doesn't stop certain other programs. So if there are other people in different countries, like I think U4U, I think that ended a while ago, but there are other programs out there in which if you are looking for asylum, there are special cases you could still come through. Now, when it comes to the national emergency at the border, that's so that Trump can unlock some money to help build the construction of a wall, something that he started, and believe it or not, under Biden, they actually continued some of that. So it's just kind of a continuation of it. Next is reinstate the Remain in Mexico asylum policy, which is prior to this, you could come into the United States and kind of take refuge here for a little bit. Now it's you could submit your documents, but you're staying in Mexico before we make our decision. And then lastly, it's consider designating cartels as foreign terrorist organizations. This is so that they can now use their force to remove certain cartel from the United States and add more security at the border. Hope you're staying with me. There's a lot here, and we're not even halfway through yet. Next is gender diversity initiatives. First is ending diversity, equality, and inclusion, or the DEI programs in the federal government, something that Biden did put into place. Next, he is only recognizing 2 different genders. You're either a male or a female, and that's it. That's all he's allowing here. And then it's to remove protections for transgender people in federal prisons. We're now moving over to trade and tariffs. We already know that Trump wants to tariff Canada, Mexico, and China. Those are things that I think he's using more or less as bargaining chips that I actually don't think he's going to do. And so in here it says they're going to investigate trade practices, including currency manipulation and migration flows from China, Mexico, and Canada. I think he's going to use these tariffs as like maybe some way to convince these governments to maybe build up protections on their walls to stop people coming, vice versa, either way over that border. Next, he's going to assess China's compliance with the trade deals under the review of the USMCA, ultimately making sure they are doing what they're supposed to be doing, which I need to add. At this very moment, a lot of Chinese companies are thinking that, hey, tariffs are going to be high. We need to start exporting things to different countries and send them that way. And yeah, they're trying to get around sanctions, or not sanctions, tariffs really. Tariffs that are going to be on them. And so what they're doing is, and I know this because I buy and sell things in Alibaba, these companies are setting up other kind of divisions in different countries. So let's say that I wanted to order, order a bunch of hats. Okay, I want to buy 1,000 hats. I'm going to order them on Alibaba. Alibaba has offices in let's just say South Korea. Okay, I order it through South Korea. They're made in China, sent to South Korea, and then from there they're repackaged or whatever and then sent to the United States. See how they're able to get around that? And yes, we've seen this happen before with other countries. I mean, Russia's doing that because they're heavily sanctioned right now. They're able to get chips and things by, originally it was actually sent into Hong Kong and other countries and then shipped into Russia. So, I think Trump's going to look at this and go, wait a minute, we need to see what's going on here. Next is consider creating an external review service for tariffs, something that Donald Trump has talked about before. And lastly is review national security related tariffs and manufacturing. Remember, Donald Trump wants to bring more jobs. He wants to bring a lot of manufacturing back to the United States. So they have to review all those things and make it more competitive here in the US to where you want to make these things, which I need to add would be extremely expensive. We're going now into energy and environment. This was a big one. Donald Trump withdrew us from the Paris Agreement, something that he's did once before. Clearly something that we need as and not just a country, as the world. Our climate, our storms are getting worse. Look at California. It was so dry that we had those horrible fires, which at the time of this, fires are still going on in California. So I don't think withdrawing from the Paris Agreement is a good idea, but hey, it is what it is. Next is declaring a national emergency to expedite mining and energy products, aka what he says, drill baby drill. He already is open to Alaskan drilling. Well, that's actually another thing off there. And reviewing the offshore wind farm leasing. Something that we're in New Jersey right now. There's wind farms that are being currently built, actually, right off Atlantic City and Ocean City. And one of the things that he said during his campaigns to the White House, actually in his rally in Wildwood, New Jersey, was that he would have those projects stopped. And so now they're reviewing those projects. They're not officially gone, especially because there's a lot of money tied up behind it. Remember, Donald Trump can't do these executive orders and everything just happens all at once. There's a lot of reviews and things that have to take place. There's a lot of money tied up. And so this is just reviewing the offshore wind farm leases. Not sure if that would mean they'll be completely gone in the future, since several of them are actually ready to go. Another one just passed in Atlantic City. There's going to be a reversal of Biden's offshore drilling ban and regulations on tailpipe population. Ultimately, as I said before, he's going to drill, baby, drill. That is just a matter of drilling even more oil. I know some people are saying, oh, that's great, it means it's going to bring down prices. I will say that right now here in the United States, we're producing more gas and oil than we ever have done before. And that's to make up for the fact that the Russians have been sanctioned so much. So doing that, a lot of people are actually buying it. So Trump is just actually taking it even higher than it was before. I really don't think that's going to really, truly lower the price of gas. The ultimate thing, and I will say this because I don't want this to happen, but the only other way that gas prices in the United States would truly come down is if they took off sanctions on the Russian gas, because that would flood the market so much it would cause the gas price to go crashing down. And I mean like $2 a gallon and even southern more than that. But realistically, we want Russia to kind of feel this crunch and not make any money, because that money's being used for weapons to then hit Ukraine. So, I'm totally okay with paying a little bit more in gas and oil if that means that we're destroying Russia at the same time. It's a win-win for me, especially because we get no soldiers on the job. Next is rolling back energy efficiency regulations for appliances. I don't agree with this, mostly because, energy efficient means cheaper when we pay electricity bills. I run my washer and dryer. It's so much cheaper now than it was even 5 years ago. So then lastly, it's eliminate environmental justice programs. Next, we move into TikTok. His national security risk thing with TikTok was quite interestingly on display when he actually was talking about signing this bill, because in the executive order, Donald Trump does pause the ban, or at least the enforcement of the ban, for 75 days. Now, what I don't understand is that it was 90 days going into it, but that is actually if a deal is underway. There actually is no deal as of right now underway. And so Donald Trump technically couldn't sign that 90-day one. He had to sign something. And so this is an executive order that's different than that 90-day pause, because there was no deal. And technically speaking, a deal was supposed to be made before the ban. So this is different than that. I do find it quite interesting. But ultimately, it is making sure TikTok can stay online. I do want to add, though, Donald Trump talked about this ban. And in it, they asked him why did he change his mind on it. He says because he started using it. And then didn't really say that there really was no security risk, but kind of pointed out, well, they're just kids using the app. And, they talked about, security risks, but they're kids. So it's like, in a way, he was almost saying at the same time, like, oh, hey, there really is no risk here, but, you should. What we're really seeing is that as Donald Trump is speaking to the CEO of TikTok, or the owners, or even people in China, we're finding out that, yes, we actually make up a decent amount of the money that's coming in for them. And as Donald Trump says, without the US, there is no TikTok. They make no money. There's nothing. And so he says, we deserve half of that. Now, we still don't know what that means. He wants to do a joint venture between the US and whoever else. We don't know what the details are going to be. It's probably going to be a few weeks until we find out. So do make sure you subscribe here on YouTube, because we don't know what's going to happen there. And then other initiatives that were signed. And there were a decent amount of them. First of all, withdrawal from the World Health Organization. Next is rename Mount Denali and the Gulf of Mexico. We now have the Gulf of America, and Mount Denali now is Mount McKinley, which I actually agree with, because Denali was actually taken from a translation from Russian. So we brought it back to being American, which, speaking about Russia, Russian politicians today decided they're going to change the name of the Black Sea to the Russian Sea. Don't know if they're trolling Trump or if this is just kind of like a, hey, it's a good idea, let's go ahead and do it. Next, Donald Trump is making sure that states with the death penalty have enough lethal injection drugs to do these things. If you remember, Biden kind of paused all lethal injections. Donald Trump came in and says, no, we need to put them back on. One of those people, by the way, I think it's the Boston Massacre bomber. I think he's one of those. And then we've got a few more just to cover. I apologize. I know this video is long. Next, the American flag will fly at full staff in the future on all inaugurations. I do find that interesting. After a president dies here in the United States, it's supposed to be 30 days that it's at half staff. Donald Trump wants to change that so that if it does happen again in the future in which a president dies before inauguration, this is of course someone out of office, that those flags would be at full staff. Next is implementing a cost-cutting initiative with input from Elon Musk, aka Doge. Doge is here. Obviously, Elon Musk made some very interesting signs. I don't think he'll face any kind of consequences from that. I know that you're all kind of hoping that he does. But this is just the efficiency program that Trump has been talking about for quite some time and that Elon Musk is heavily, heavily involved with. And yes, Elon Musk does have some kind of office space somewhere inside probably the Eisenhower building in which he'll have a team of 20 desks of people coming in and just reviewing everything to see what they can get rid of. It is an efficiency program. We'll see what happens with it. I'm not quite sure how involved Elon Musk will be in. More than likely, he'll just have a team of people working there and he'll just be in the background. At least that's the hope that we all have. And lastly, he's invoking security clearances from those who signed a letter about Hunter Biden's laptop. Look, I'm a big believer in, look, it's done. That was in the past. Let's just move forward from all that Hunter Biden stuff and all this manhunt. Let's just stop that now and move forward as a country. As a reporter, you know I'm always going to be reporting to you about what's happening, verified information, and news as it comes out. As a country, though, we need some time for healing. This was a very, very stressful past 48 hours. I'm not just even talking about Trump being put into office, but I'm talking about TikTok and it going down and going dark. And as a country, I think that was the first time that we legitimately all came together and like we're freaking out enough to really look at our congressmen and our senators and be like, yo, y'all messed up here. Y'all should have fought harder for us. And I'm just pulling this out as an example. As a country, we can come together and conquer something here. And I want you to remember that you have a voice. There's a lot of things on here that are going to be hard for many people. And I want you to understand that you as a U.S. citizen have a voice. If something you don't like is bothering you, in a polite way, you call your senator, you write a letter, you protest, you get your voice out there, you make a video. You have that right. And then the most ultimate right is voting. When it comes time to vote, especially in the midterms, you need to go out and make your voices heard because it's those decisions, not even the presidential one, but it's those decisions that help decide what happens with our government in the future. And, you know, I look at our government now and I say, obviously, there's not many people up there that represent my age because as America, we're an upside triangle where the older generations, the boomers are the ones that hold the power. And there's not many of us. And, you know, I look at us and I go, wow, we really need more representation of us up there. I don't know when that's going to happen. And I'm hoping it's going to be in the next midterm. So do make sure you get your voices heard and you do your civil duty and go out there and vote. And actually make sure you understand and know your candidate. That being said, man, oh man, I'm so sorry I kept you for about 20 minutes. Those are Donald Trump's executive orders. It's not actually all of them. You can actually jump onto the website, actually whitehouse.gov, and read all these things because there's a lot that goes into these. Like, some of these even have just interesting names, like restoring the names that honor American greatness. Look, I always suggest not to just read the headlines, but you actually read the articles. In this case, read the press releases from the White House, because there's a lot of information that comes out of here. Nonetheless, I will continue to bring you guys verified news to either here on YouTube at Joey Contino News or on my TikTok channel at Joey Contino. I just want to say thank you so much to everyone who's joined me in the past just 2 days. We actually did 10 million views in just the past, I think it was 50-something odd hours. Between TikTok shutting down, the inauguration, we did a lot. So I just want to say thank you so much for coming to me for your verified news. I hope you guys have a great day and please stay safe.